When you hear the name Layne Staley, a sound probably comes to mind. It's a voice that for millions of us absolutely defined a generation of rock music. Just this incredible mix of raw power and haunting beauty. But the story behind that voice, it's so much more complex. It's a journey from glam rock stages to deep, profound isolation, and a legacy that's still evolving in ways nobody could have seen coming. So today, let's get into the man behind that monumental voice.
Okay, and this quote from Jerry Cantrell really says it all, doesn't it? This is what he thought when he first heard Layne sing. He's looking at this skinny teenager, but hearing something impossibly huge, something powerful. And that's the fundamental contradiction of Layne Staley, right? This colossal, world-weary voice coming from a man who often seemed totally overwhelmed by the world itself.
So how did he actually do it? How did he create that sound? Well, it wasn't just raw emotion, not by a long shot. It was backed by some staggering technical skill. So for this first part, we're going to break down the actual architecture of his voice to really understand what made it so unique and, so influential.
I mean, the technical skill behind his voice is just mind-blowing. Look at this, a documented range from E-flat 2 all the way up to a B5. That's insane versatility. But here's the key, the absolute core of his power, that peak belting range, from G-sharp 4 to B-flat 4. That's the sweet spot. That's what gave those early Alice in Chains choruses that explosive gut punch feeling. Then you add in those dissonant parallel harmonies with Jerry Cantrell, and boom, you have the band's signature haunting sound. See, it wasn't just about hitting the notes, it was about building an entire language for pain. That technical control is how he could channel such raw, unfiltered emotion night after night.
But here's the thing. That iconic grunge voice, it wasn't his default setting. He had to build it. He had to forge it. Before he became the face of the Seattle sound, Layne Staley was a student of a very, very different world, one filled with a lot more hairspray and high notes. So let's take a look at how he made that journey. His whole musical path actually started behind a drum kit when he was just 12. But by 1984, he was out front, singing for a glam metal band called Sleaze. Of course, the real turning point was meeting Jerry Cantrell in 1987. Staley was in a funk project at the time and wasn't really interested, so Cantrell's band started auditioning these hilariously terrible singers right in front of him, just to get a reaction. And, well, it totally worked. Alice in Chains was born.
And this slide just perfectly illustrates the dramatic transformation. I mean, with Sleaze, Layne himself said they dressed in drag and played speed metal, covering bands like Slayer. His voice was all these high-register screams. But with Alice in Chains, everything changed. The look became raw and authentic, the music turned dark and introspective, and his voice deepened into that resonant, powerful chest belt that we all know. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate, artistic evolution.
So, as his voice was changing, so was what he was singing about. Staley's lyrics basically became his diary, a shockingly honest, unflinching documentation of his inner world and his struggle with addiction. He wasn't just writing songs anymore. He was reporting from the front lines of his own private war.
What really set his writing apart is this concept you could call lyrical literalism. While a lot of his peers were using metaphors to explore dark themes, Layne, especially on the album Dirt, just stripped all of that away. He gave a direct, almost journalistic account of his experience, which is exactly what makes those songs so powerful, and, let's be honest, so difficult to listen to even today.
This line, From Hate to Feel, a song he wrote completely by himself, is a perfect example. I mean, in just 8 words, he charts the entire brutal progression of addiction. It goes from a choice, something born out of curiosity, to a biological necessity, something you need just to survive. There's no poetry, no metaphor, just the raw, unvarnished truth of his reality. Now, that raw honesty in his lyrics gave us a window into the struggles that would eventually lead Layne to withdraw from the public eye. After his final shows with Alice in Chains in 1996, he pretty much disappeared. And the common story is that this was just a period of pure decline. But the truth, well, it's way more nuanced than that. In the shadows of his isolation, a whole different kind of creativity was actually flourishing. For those last 6 years, he retreated into his Seattle condo. The death of his former fiancée, Demery Parrott, is often seen as what really triggered this complete withdrawal. And while it was, without a doubt, a dark period defined by his addiction, it's just a huge mistake to think his creative mind simply shut down. You see, beyond music, Staley was a really prolific visual artist. He was drawing, painting, making pottery, and jewelry. He even drew a comic book for his nephew. So during these years of reclusion, when his voice fell silent to the world, his hands were still creating.
He was finding new ways to express that powerful imagination that had fueled his music for so long.
Okay, so just imagine this for a second. What if, in the near future, say 2025, his journals were released under a title like This Angry Pen of Mine? The impact would be absolutely stunning. Picture it, debuting at number 14 on the New York Times bestseller list. More than 2 decades after his death, his private drawings, his poems, his writings, they would connect with a massive audience, completely rehumanizing his story and showing the world that vibrant creative mind that was active right until the very end.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most transformative chapter of his story. It's about how a life that was marked by such profound personal struggle has been reframed into this powerful force for public good, for institutionalized healing.
Right after his death in 2002, his parents established the Layne Staley Memorial Fund. Then, fast forward to 2019, and the city of Seattle officially recognized his contribution with Layne Staley Day. And in that hypothetical scenario we talked about, the success of his journals in 2025 would create this powerful new stream of money to support the fund's work. It just goes to show you, this is a legacy that isn't static. It's active, it's growing, and it's constantly evolving. So, at the end of the day, his legacy now really stands on 3 main pillars. First, the Layne Staley Fund, which offers tangible, real-world help to musicians struggling with addiction. Second, Layne Staley Day, which is this official recognition of his importance. And finally, of course, his artistic influence, which is undeniable. His unique vocal style became a direct blueprint for countless singers who came after him.
And that leaves us with this one final essential question. How can art that's born from such profound pain end up creating a legacy of public healing? Layne Staley's story is just a powerful reminder of that paradox. From his groundbreaking voice to his unflinching lyrics, and even his posthumous artistic revival, his life and his work show us that even from the deepest void, you can create something that helps bring others back into the light.